Hello, everybody, and welcome to M2M, another podcast for you. So today, a season review with a special guest. My name's Toby here in London.
And my name's Paul here in Birmingham.
So, Richie, welcome. Welcome back to the channel, mate. How are you doing?
Thanks, boys. Yeah, really good down here. Obviously, middle of winter down here in Melbourne, Australia, but we're getting through it.
Nice.
Some positive results from Ferrari would be good, but we're keeping warm down here and doing well.
Nice. Good to hear. Okay. All right. Well, we've got a few questions we're all going to discuss. So over to you, Paul. Away you go, mate.
Yeah. Hi, Richie. Thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate it. We're summer break now, and we've had 14 races already. So, I mean, going back a few decades, we used to have a 16 race calendar. It would have nearly been over now. So we've had lots of races already. It's nice probably just to have a little bit of a breath now after quite a few triple headers and so on. So anyway, Richie, what you maybe anticipated Ferrari at the start of the season, where we're at now? Are you satisfied, dissatisfied with how we've got on?
Yeah, well, I mean, since the last time we spoke, when we were on Cloud 9 after that 1-2 at Albert Park, it's really been a tale of two halves to the season so far for us. I think probably post Monaco, we really thought we could set up a season where we can challenge for, if not drivers, definitely constructors, and it's probably gone all downhill from there, especially from Imola when we got that latest upgrade with the new floor. It just didn't work for us, and we've probably slipped down from challenging for the top spot to clinging onto fourth spot in the constructors now. So It's been, even though we had that early success, it's been probably a disappointing season in terms of Leclerc and Sainz regularly getting podiums to now. I think from Imola, we've had 2 podiums. We've had Leclerc, which, to be honest, wasn't really a podium at Spa because we got it borrowed disqualification to Russell, and Sainz obviously in Austria. So 2 third places since Monaco when we had a 1 and 3 there. It's been a disappointing second half to the first half of the season.
Yeah. What about the performance of Charles versus Carlos? Things like that. What do you reckon on that? Because, for me, I mean, obviously, like you say, we had the high Monaco, and obviously the first race, in Australia with the 1-2. But since then, well, what do you think? How do you think it's matching up between them?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of funny. Like I always thought Sainz would be locked out in terms of development talks and all that sort of stuff. So the season was going to be hard for him. And I don't know, this is just personal opinion sort of stuff here, but I see Charles sort of straying from the light further by the race, to be honest. I'm seeing those broken Charles that was through 2020, 21, 22 sort of coming back a bit. You can almost see it in their eyes that they've sort of written this year off a little bit. I know Sainz departing is always going to be having one eye to next year, but I've expected more out of Charles, and whether that's a car thing, that's a motivational thing, I don't know. But I'm eagerly looking forward to the second half, that wary of the fact that we don't want to put too much time into developing a car to finish 4th in the constructors. So whether or not they start looking towards 25, then 26 with the new regs. But I'm going to say it, and I very rarely say about it.
Go on, say it.
Yeah, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in Charles. I don't like to bag this team, but it's been a disappointing post Monaco feel.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you there. Charles, we all know he's quick, we all know he's great, we all love him, but I think unless he has the car under him, he tries, he pushes too hard, and we've seen that, especially in Belgium. I think he had an off in the practice, didn't he? And and it's just, and I think those things sort of come back to haunt him a little bit, where he just pushes and he has a mistake and he's out, and that sort of his confidence is down for the weekend.
And he's a confidence-driven driver too. Like he really feeds off his own, sort of inner confidence, inner belief. So you can sort of see throughout a weekend where he just sort of drops off a little bit, and that's been the biggest disappointment this year for me.
Yeah, I also read that there were some quotes that came out. Apparently Carlos was pretty shocked and upset that he was going at the end of the season, and I think and Charles said the same. He was shocked to know that Lewis was coming in. So I think it might make because we had that
bit of a difference
stability
in their thought process going forward. I think moving on. I think we've had a lot of breaking news this season in Formula One. It never fails to And basically Lewis Hamilton coming to Ferrari. I know we haven't spoken to you since, Richie, but I know Toby's head's down now. What was your thoughts when you saw?
You might want to switch off.
I'll close the door behind me. That's it.
Switch off for the next 5 minutes, Tobes. You might not want to partake in this part. It's a tough one. I've knows me. I've been very vocal of Lewis over the last 10 years. I've been very keen on a certain crying baby meme that I've used most weekends whenever they didn't do too well, and I've got to delete all them and look forward to him driving for us. I'll be the first to say when Raikkonen came to us in 07, I hated it. When Alonso came to us, I hated it, and I grew to love them. Whether or not we'll grow to love Lewis, I still think drove for Mercedes 2010 to 12, but he's not a Mercedes driver. He's ours. I can't ever see us seeing Lewis as our boy. Like Nigel, still our Nige. I can't see it being the same as Lewis. He's won 7 world championships with other teams, 2 of our biggest rivals, McLaren and Mercedes. So whether or not, obviously we'll welcome him. Anytime there's 2 drivers driving for Ferrari, they're the 2 most important drivers in our world. But his longer lasting legacy, I don't know. And I'm warming to it. And even, Jesus, I can't believe I'm saying this. After the British Grand Prix, I'm like, get in, Lewis. Like, it was just it was weird. It takes me back to 95 when I didn't want Schumacher to come to Ferrari. Yes, I'm going to say that. And at the end of the season, he started winning. I'm like, yeah, that's our boy. It's similar vibes for me. It's weird and it feels yuck and I hate it. But if it returns us to a winning car, then that's all I care about. So
moving on from veteran drivers, we've got our young academy drivers coming through. Ollie Behrman, obviously announced as a past Formula One driver for next season. He obviously did a great job in Saudi Arabia as replacing obviously Carlos. He's not had a great season F2, particularly this season. So what's your thoughts on Ollie getting an F1 drive?
I like it, and I'll tell you why I like it. Firstly, to address F2, I think both him and Kimi Antonelli are thinking bigger picture, and whether or not outside noise is now affecting their F2 campaigns, it has to be. Yeah. I'm not an elite athlete, so I can't put my headspace where they're at. But knowing that you're half of your goal for next year, it's got to take some of that edge off your performance for the current year. So I'll address that F2 part there. But I love the fact that the Ferrari Academy is actually being used now. So we've got, obviously, Charles is driving for Ferrari, his former FDA. We've got Ollie coming in next year for Haas, which I think is a great step to then either replace. I always thought replace Lewis. Who knows? He might replace Charles. Let's hope it never happens. But and Ollie, Charles 1-2 is for me, that's a perfect Ferrari 1-2. In the past, we've had Callum Miller, we've had Robert Schwartzman come through the FDA and not make that step up to F1. So to be able to see Ollie come into the Haas for 2025, I love the fact that the Ferrari Driver Academy is actually doing what it's supposed to be doing, and that's delivering drivers into F1. So, the Red Bull Junior Academy, it doesn't really work anymore, but they've still got it. But so if we can be breeding guys to go to lower teams to then come to us, I like it.
Yeah, I like it too.
And he can drive,
I think he's great.
And it's sometimes about the right time, isn't it? You're a driver 100%. Academy, and if there's no space coming forward in many years, you get taken off the production line, don't you? Really, because they're all for you, and so a lot of it's about luck and timing as well. I feel, and look, it's opening up this next season for new spaces for new drivers, new possibilities. So that's good.
You see, we've got Schwartzman driving for AF Course in WC, and Illitt's driving for Jota Sport. So they've got plum drives out of it, and I suppose you could say that Schwartzman's still a part of the Ferrari family.
Yeah, and
it's right time, right place. Gio,
Foucault, same,
and Foucault's as well, one of the FDAs. So. Yeah, it's right time, right place.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you just said, his F2 season is a bit raw dog in that, isn't it? So it's not really going to work for him, I don't think. But the fact that he's already been in a Formula One car, he stepped in for Carlos. In his head, he knows he can do it, and he's proved himself. Because Paul and I have mentioned in the past, there are drivers that come in, who are great in F2, and suddenly the F1 they don't really make the mark, like they just miss it a little bit. But I think because he's done it, he's been in there, his confidence, he knows in his head he can do it and make a difference there. So I think he'll be great. I'm just the other thing, Ocon as teammate, who knows how that's going to work out, because Ocon's like, he's a nightmare, isn't he? So who knows how that's going to work.
He's dramas with every teammate he's had, hasn't he? So, and doesn't mind banging wheels with them either. So, look, a Hulkenberg or Magnussen may have been better for him, but the only thing I don't know. I'm a big fan of Kevin Magnussen. I met him in Spa a couple of years ago, and he took the time out to have a chat. He's a great bloke. I think he's a pretty hot sort of a driver, and I'd like to see him go to WEC, and because he was supposed to drive for Peugeot in 2023, or 2022, sorry. So it'd be good to see him land there, or even Indy, and really shake things up a bit. I think he's gonna. Wherever he goes, he'll get results, I think.
Yeah, I think so. So as far as the year goes, or we've had so far, apart from Australia, because that's an obvious choice, but what's your favourite race so far, and maybe who's been the best driver, or who do you think has impressed you most this year?
Well, you know what my highlight's been. It's Monaco for sure.
Of course.
Charles getting that monkey off the back is. I think for him going forward, he goes to Monaco probably so much lighter every year going forward now, knowing that he has won there and he can win there. And that for me is the highlight. That's been the only other highlight. That in Australia, we're not even going to talk about the rest of the season. No, it's been good to see other teams taking it to Red Bull, and it's fascinating to see. And we went through it through the end of our domination, and Mercedes has as well. When a team that's had it fairly easy starts to get a bit of pressure applied to them, it's amazing to see how quickly they can crumble under that pressure. So
absolutely.
McLaren taking the fight up to them, and now Mercedes as well. You can sort of sit back and take your Ferrari hat off and sort of go, all right, what are we going to get this weekend? You're not as certain going forward now that you're going to listen to the Dutch national anthem and blah blah blah. It's really game on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big Piastri fan actually, so he's the guy that's impressed me a ton this season. I think he's great, but
he's in papaya. I can't do that. So I think I still hate McLaren more than I hate Mercedes, to be honest. It's I know I've been fiery in some groups of that we're all in before about McLaren, but I can't celebrate an Australian win while he's driving a McLaren.
Yeah, no, I've got to be honest. I'm into him. I think he's great. So I think he's good. But so I mean, and then we got some seats left. I guess we've got Audi, Mercedes, Alpine. Who do you think is going to fill those seats?
Yeah. So I mean, it's funny. There's one sort of common name that has a link to all three teams, I suppose you could say. So, German,
Mick Schumacher.
Yeah, he's the Mercedes third driver, and he drives Alpine WEC. So, he's going to get either seat. To be honest, I think.
Sorry, carry on, Richie.
I think Antonelli's going to get Mercedes. I can't see Schumacher getting it.
No.
So I reckon Antonelli there. I think Audi's going to stick with Bottas. Develop a car, which he did at Williams. You stick with him. And then I think the last seat at Alpine is Mick Doohan.
Yeah, I think so.
Every chance we have either three Aussies on the grid next year, or continue with two, and that's Doohan and Piastri.
Yeah. Look, Doohan looks like it's going to happen for Alpine, doesn't it? And Antonelli, Mercedes, I think that's. I can't see anyone else taking that seat at the moment.
I think Carlos was tipped for it, but I think now that's out of the question. I mean, it's got to be Antonelli, surely, hasn't it? Yeah. So I don't think Toto really wants him, but.
And I said, I think with the Audi, I think they'll keep one of the current drivers. I feel in that sense, as you said.
I just see that being Bottas over Zhou, to be honest. I don't know. I know there is that push there, but I think Bottas lines up well with Hulkenberg. They work together, and then they bring through a young German driver, 26, 27. So that's how I see that playing out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure about how that car is. I've heard reports they can barely make a wheel stick on at the moment. So who knows what that's going to...
Have a look at what Audi does when they go into motorsport, WRC, WEC.
100%.
They can put together a program.
So they absolutely can.
They're a sleeping giant. They're going to be a Mercedes 2010s sort of
yeah,
top
I
giant
agree.
when they get it right.
I think absolutely. If they stick it out, then they will. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
Obviously, looking at predictions, the sort of the break time here. So, who do you think top 5 will be at the end of the season? Drivers.
I still see Max winning the championship.
Yeah.
I think mentally, Lewis and Alonso, even though he's not in the championship hunt, I think mentally they're on another level. They can sort of Schumacher-like crush drivers purely through pressure. Doesn't need the fastest car to win. I think Max is still going to take that. I think that you take him out, and then the race for the championship minus Max is going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
2 McLarens and 2 Mercedes are going to be filling the podiums and taking race wins away from Max. I think Max, having done all the early work, is probably going to not cruise to the line, but he's going to roll to the line with enough points already in the bank. And also the McLarens are going to be sort of robbing points from each other. That's probably the biggest developing story of the year, is going to be how McLaren play Piastri and Norris off against each other. Whether or not they just focus on the constructors and don't worry about the drivers, I think that's probably the way it's going to play out. So my top 5 would be Max, Lando, Oscar, George, then Lewis, and our 2 boys are going to be trailing off in 6th and 7th. And unless we come back throw into that, you've probably got Perez is going to win a race or two here or there as well. So
well, who knows about that, mate? That's crazy.
I think he's too good a driver not to win in that car. So he's going to sort out with a contract in the pocket. He's going to sort out whatever issues he's had in the first half of this year, and I think he'll come back stronger.
Yeah, who knows, mate? He's out there by himself. If anyone sees him, write a postcard. That's I mean, I don't know where he is.
Exactly
what I mean? But
I suppose, Richie, the constructors, you're sort of looking at Red Bull, McLaren.
Yeah. I think McLaren's going to get close. And the only thing that's going to stop McLaren from winning the constructors is probably going to be McLaren in how they sort out the fight between Oscar and Lando. But I think Red Bull's done enough work in the first half of the season to carry that momentum. And again, I think Perez is going to come into that equation by starting to regularly podium and grabbing top 4s, top 5s. So they'll have that points in the bank. It'll be RB from McLaren. From Mercedes, we'll probably come in 4th, and then Aston Martin or whoever else wants to come 5th. It's really a fight between the top 2 and then probably Mercedes for 3rd, I'd say.
Okay. There's a question I've been interested to get. I mean, it's not Ferrari related. I was just curious because it's quite controversial here. Obviously, being in the UK, McLaren is McLaren territory. It's your most hated team, so I want to put it out here. So we had the controversy of the win. Should Lando move over? Oscar was there and everything. So what do you think he should have done? Do you think he should have just raced to the line and gone, screw you? Or should he have done what he did?
I copped a massive beating from friends and from randoms on Facebook. I'll put my opinions everywhere at most times. I reckon Lando should have just turned the radio off and just gone for the win, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll ask you, what would Michael Loretten have done?
Exactly. Exactly. What would Lewis have done? What would Vettel done?
Michael all of a sudden would have stopped speaking English. And I think that's the difference between champion Lando. Max wouldn't have done that. Well, he's shown that he wouldn't do it. So I think he honestly should have said, "Stick it. I'm winning this race. I'm going for the championship, and I'll deal with the fallout later."
Absolutely.
As much as it was great to see Oscar win his first race, I don't think it was because he was in a McLaren. But it was good to see an Australian win a race again. But they say about the undercut and all that sort of thing. Catch up to him and overtake him. I don't like contrived results, and I don't like team orders. But at the same time, you're in front and you're 6 seconds up the road. Go and win the race and then deal with it later. Seriously,
that's
he's
kind
a
of what
quick
I
driver.
think.
Red Bull will pick him up. Someone will pick him up if McLaren drop him.
Yeah, true.
I think so.
Polarizing, call it what you will. That's just my thoughts. I think you've got to be ruthless in a ruthless sport, to be honest.
Yeah,
100%. It's a selfish sport, and you got to drive that way, haven't you? So, but excellent. That's kind of where I'm at too. And there's a few people here who agree with you, and some people that don't. So I'm just curious to see where you weighed in on that. But anyway, cool. Well, That's amazing. Thanks, Richie, and thanks so much for joining us, because it's been epic, mate, as always. So
Yeah,
thanks for your
it's been
time.
a fantastic season for a neutral. Not so much for us boys in red, but for the neutrals, it's been a good a season as 2021 and almost on a par with 2010, 2012 as one of the seasons that's going to go down as one of the classics. So
Great to see you.
Honestly,
Thanks for your time.
a real pleasure,
Good to
mate. Thank
see
you so much, Richie. Have a great week.